All right, we are back here on another XRP podcast, and today we're going to be looking at really the macro stage and kind of the idea of utility-driven finance, PayFi, many people would call that. We're also going to talk a little bit about real-world assets and the bigger picture, which is where one of the major players in this sector, especially if you think about just the XRP ledger ecosystem, you look at traditional ecosystems within the blockchain. Zebec has been on the forefront of this around streaming liquidity. So we're going to go into that with Simon. And I think we're going to get into understanding how maybe we could see anywhere between trillions in terms of annual payroll, but also the number of enterprise clients that are going to be jumping into all of this that I think is going to make a big difference in the blockchain in terms of utility. So stick around for all this, guys. We'll get started. Before we get into it, I do want to thank our sponsor, and this is a special offer for you guys. OKX is running an exclusive affiliate offer where you can earn up to $500 in XRP rewards just by hitting a few simple milestones. Step one, tier one, you can complete the KYC. You get $10 in XRP. If you go to step two, which is $100 on a deposit, you get another 40. Then you can bump that deposit and trade volume of just $1,000 and you grab an additional $100 in XRP. Best of all, for the heavy hitters out there, if you deposit and trade 10 grand, you can unlock a massive $350 XRP reward. This stacks onto all of this. So boom, you get up to $500 max earning, and it's paid directly out in XRP. So click the link down below. You guys are not wanting to miss this one. It is an awesome one. All right, so here we are with Simon. Simon, welcome into the show. How are you?
Paul, great to be here today.
All right, so we got a couple of things to hit on today. We're going to talk a little bit about just the macro crypto markets that we're seeing more and more of. As we see the pressure, price pressure, mostly, one thing that has come up with a lot of our interviews, and I think also just on our research team, is the speculation that we're seeing to infrastructure. And this is a transition that you and I got a chance to kind of talk a little bit about when we were together last in Vegas. But when you look at the current state of the markets going away from hype into real enterprise adoption, where does Zebec play in terms of that focus?
Well, first of all, I think what we're seeing in the markets right now is a healthy rebalancing away from what we would call hype and momentum plays,
Yep.
more towards utility and infrastructure. Of course, at Zebec, we've been building the rails now for real-time finance for over 5 years. We're squarely in the infrastructure category. And we think that really our time is here as a company to really show what we've built and bring it to the enterprises of the world.
When you look at the rise of PayFi, this is one of the utility, I think one of the utility things that are really going to make a huge difference, not only for blockchain, but I think for business in general, payment finance. First of all, explain that to our audience. Some people may have never heard the term PayFi, never really understand what payment finance is. Isn't it the same thing? Give us a rundown.
Well, the way I like to think about PayFi, it's really the ability to program payments. And the blockchain is set up in an ideal way to do that. So using Zebec as an example, payroll is typically run every 2 weeks or every month using
Right.
legacy banking rails, ACH, Swift. We've completely rebuilt payroll on blockchain rails utilizing smart contracts. And the reason smart contracts are important is that you can use a smart contract to program a payment in any increment of time, any frequency, any regularity that
Mhm.
a banking payment would not be able to do. So now that the world has woken up to stablecoins, both businesses and regulators, we're seeing increased interest in PayFi solutions for businesses as well as financial institutions.
So second by second settlement really is what you're talking about. This, of course, it eliminates a lot of the batch processing that banks have been doing forever, where they float on your money. Even that's done today in payroll with some of the biggest payroll companies out there, where you'll get it withdrawn from your bank. If you're a business owner, you know how this works. It withdraws from your bank, whether you're using ADP, Gusto, doesn't matter, and it sits there maybe for 24 hours, in some cases longer if there's a holiday.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the end result is you finally get a payment that goes out to your employees or your contractors. This is something that you guys are really getting into. I guess one of the questions I always wonder is privacy is pretty paramount in the payroll side of things. How do you guys deal with that as a challenge?
It's a great question. And it's one of the questions that we got very early on when we brought Zebec to market. You're completely correct. Payroll data should not be shown on chain. Obviously, HR departments don't want all their employees and contractors to know what everyone else
Right.
pays. So at Zebec, we work with a number of privacy solutions, which are essentially layer twos that sit on top of blockchains, which completely mask transactions. And we've recently actually worked with some private blockchains directly as well. So to give you an example, we're building a payroll product, Aleo, which has actually a native privacy feature built into the blockchain where you can choose if you want a transaction to be publicly visible or if you want a
Okay.
private transaction.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website. We'll bring it up just for everybody if you guys want to go check it. It gives you a little bit more insights on some of the things they're doing around products. So you guys are doing a 500 million in annual payroll volume. What would that look like in say 36 months if we continue to see the regulatory framework being developed?
Our goal by the end of the year is to hit a run rate of about $1 billion in payroll volume. Using the Genius Act as an example, we saw huge influx of interest, particularly from US businesses after the Genius Act was passed last summer.
Hmm.
If we see clarity past this year, I would imagine that the floodgates would open further and we would see that next leg of growth that would get us into the billions. Now, you need to remember billions of dollars in payroll volume, that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Annual payroll volume in the US alone is $11 trillion. That doesn't include cross border, that doesn't include international contractors, right? So we're looking at tens of trillions in volume, which will inevitably flow to stablecoins. So we're very, very early in this transition.
Yeah. All right. So you guys have the Zebec cards. You've got the payroll component, the DPIN side, which is the decentralized physical infrastructure. When you explain, first of all, explain the two, I think that maybe are not easy to understand. One, the DPIN side, and then the super app. I know you guys have early access on that. When are you going to open that up to full availability?
Right. So the super app went live earlier this year in desktop version. So now it is fully usable by our retail users that want to use cards, they want to stake Zebec tokens, they want to send payroll streams peer to peer.
That's on
And
desktop right now.
that is on desktop.
Okay.
And the mobile application is launching in the next couple of weeks. It's been
Okay.
under development now for months. As you can imagine, there's a lot of regulatory and legal red tape that we need to pass before bringing it out to the App Store. So that's coming very soon. But keep in mind, the super app for us is a retail product, right? It's for
Yeah.
individual users that want to use the Zebec products. It's separate from our enterprise product. So our enterprise product has all of the bells and whistles that an HR app designed for Fortune 500 businesses have. And that is actually the product that we're now going to market with certain blockchains. So for example, Stellar and Zebec have now been working together for the past 3 months to develop an enterprise payroll app that runs on Stellar blockchain. And that's going to be
Okay.
going to market next week. So stay tuned for an announcement on that.
All right. So let me dive into that a little bit. So, one of the biggest challenges I think that businesses have is dealing with the federal withholdings. That if you're a US company, federal withholdings are done on these things called 941s, which are essentially where if you've hired, this is an employee situation, not a contractor, employee, you've got matching federal income tax, you've got Social Security, you got all these different little elements that make up that tax deduction. This has been the big challenge I know for us because I've been trying to go on blockchain forever for our own employees. Will that be addressed in this next wave of payment finance?
It's absolutely been a point of friction. You're completely correct. And that's actually why a lot of our initial growth has been on the contractor side on 1099s.
Yeah.
As at the end of the day, it's really a quarterly download. The contractors file their own taxes and they deal with their own payments to the IRS. For W-2 employees, which is the example you're taking
Hmm.
now, it is doable. It is a little bit more tricky. There's a few different tax solutions that we plug into that do help with that. But I imagine in the next couple of months and years, we're going to see many more popping up.
Why not just partner with an ADT or a Gusto or someone like that?
It's a great question. And we've actually been working very closely with members of ADP's senior executive committee from the beginning. You go to our website, you'll see a number of their advisors, or actually our advisors. And to give another example, Assure, which is a middle market payroll company,
Yep.
they've actually been working with us for over 2 years now. And the reason that we work closely with Assure is that we actually purchased a few payroll companies in the US, and many of them are actually within the Assure ecosystem. So, Assure and Zebec are, I'd say, two of the most forward-thinking stablecoin payroll providers out there.
Okay, so you feel like this is just around the corner from
Correct.
becoming mainstream, seeing real enterprise adoption on a lot of this, which I think is the key thing here. Obviously, you guys have a global reach with being able to do contractual payments anywhere around
Mhm.
the world. And that is, there are a handful of companies that have been out there that have started to work into blockchain where they, file the requirements in the certain provinces or countries, etc. Are you guys doing any of that kind of stuff right now of being able to deal with contractors in other countries?
So you're talking about the employer of record model, right?
Yeah.
EOR. We don't offer that in house, but we are exploring a few partnerships with companies that do offer that. So that way we can have that as a service alongside our contractor payroll, which is kind of the bulk of our volume.
Okay, so let's look at the stablecoins for a second because to me, this is the new rail going forward. You look at the expansion of the stablecoin utility, whether you look at USDC, the Euro stablecoin, EURC from
Mhm.
Ripple, RLUSD, obviously tied into this. All of this is going to be used pretty much for everyday business. And I'm finding more and more people that are willing to accept stable coins on enterprise level transactions, which is surprising me. Yeah, because
Mhm.
I didn't think we would see it this early on. What do you think the timeline is going to look like for stable coins?
Well, to go back to the example of the Genius Act, I mean, it really gave us the federal framework for payment stablecoins. So at Zebec, for the first time, we were seeing enterprise treasurers now asking us, not just about what a stablecoin is, but rather how do we select a stablecoin? What stablecoin do you recommend? So the conversation has completely changed. I think finance departments and treasurers are much more open to transacting in stablecoin, whether they have custody solutions in house or they require custody solutions. That's still something that we're very early in. But I anticipate over the next few months and years that we're going to see a good percentage of Fortune 500 companies in America holding some form of stablecoins on their
Yeah.
balance sheet.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be, surprising to a lot of people to
Mhm.
understand because the speed and what you're dealing with in terms of instant settlement, it really does make a difference, especially when you're dealing with a lot of money that many of these enterprises are dealing with, even in just on vendor payments alone,
Exactly.
because a lot of times vendors are giving discounts for certain payments, which if you put that into the workflow of how businesses, pay other businesses, that becomes a potentially huge market, going forward. So definitely watching that one, closely. Let's talk a little bit about what your strategy has been, the evolution of the token maturity. I want to talk about where you guys came from Solana into a multi-chain approach.
Mhm.
Can you update us any on how you guys are looking at a modular payment network now as of today?
It's a great question. Now, if you go back through our history of the past 5 years, we were born in Solana. They were actually one of our early backers
Yeah.
alongside Circle. And initially, we were a protocol built on Solana that allowed for real time streaming payments, primarily using the USDC stablecoin because of our
Mhm.
relationship to Circle.
Right.
And we've not abandoned Solana, we've not abandoned Circle. In fact, we've strengthened our relationship with both of those entities. However, we did realize a few years ago that crypto was always going to be multi chain.
Mhm.
The stablecoin would be the product that reigns supreme, and knowing that, we built our rails and our infrastructure so that they could support a variety of stablecoins, they could support multiple blockchains, and we would actually be able to go to enterprises and let them pick which stablecoin they would want to work with, which blockchain they may already have integrated, rather than them forced to fit Zebec's solution.
Yeah. Well, and I think the key here with multi-chain, I think more and more people are realizing that there are certain chains that do things better than others,
Mhm.
and certain chains that have some very interesting features within them, even though I think a lot of chains are trying to kind of copy some of the best features of each other. But where do you think this where do you think this lands in, say, 5 years? Do you think we will still see 10 blockchains out there? Or do you think it's going to narrow down to maybe 3 or 4?
I think we're going to have at least 10 blockchains out there with meaningful enterprise usage. I mean, as you mentioned, each chain has its own benefits, its
Yep.
own strengths. I mean, to give an example, Stellar, given that we're going live with our product with them very soon, I mean, Stellar excels in micropayments, they excel in cross-border, they have a connection into MoneyGram, which makes
Yeah.
remittance and off-ramping so easy. So one of the reasons that we went very deep with Stellar is that we saw them as one of the best chains, if not the best chain, for small payments for international contractors, particularly to developing markets.
Yeah, we just
Then
had Danelle on not too long ago. She was teasing that partnership. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's probably going to be a big deal when you guys announce some of the things within it. I want to thank our sponsor today. And of course, that is Uphold. If you are holding crypto right now and not earning rewards, you're essentially leaving money on the table. And the reality is, in today's market, you need to be able to move instantly. That's why Uphold's flexible staking is such a game changer. You can earn weekly rewards automatically on assets you already hold without a lockup. That's most important. You can sell anytime. It's the perfect setup for anyone who wants to grow their holdings without losing their exit strategy. Download the Uphold app today and try it for yourself. I want to jump back over a little bit and go into a little bit about the Zebec to the ZBCN migration. First of all, can you explain the 110 token split strategy, the larger supply side?
Mhm.
How is that optimized for, transactions, especially microtransactions or streaming payroll for that matter?
It's a great question. So if you go back to our history, we launched as a protocol with the ZBC token, right? It was a protocol on Solana.
Mhm.
2 years ago, we completely upgraded the protocol to the network, which is now the ZBCN. It's the network token. And as you said, it was a 1 for 10 token split. The reason that we did this was to ensure that we could keep transaction fees low on the network, right? Given the anticipated increase in the token price, which it has done now over the past few years,
Yeah.
to require one ZBC would have been prohibitively expensive for micropayments and small transactions. So for that reason, we did the token split. And from here on, the tokenomics are going to continue to grow with the network. So the example I would give is that we are now no longer bringing any new token to market. So the token is fully vested, it's fully distributed,
Yeah.
and at this point, we've transitioned into a fully deflationary environment.
Yeah. So the final, for those of you or who are kind of tracking this, the final token unlock was done in March, which really is the elimination of the dilution risk on how this model is kind of put together. So that could be good, especially if you have annualized growth in
Mhm.
revenue based buybacks and burns on that. When you look at that strategy going forward, is that sustainable for Zebec?
It absolutely is, and it's core to our strategy on the token. So everything at Zebec leads back to the ZBCN token. For years now, we've been buying token back using the revenue of our card program, which has grown consistently month over month, really regardless of the market's performance, which is great to see because that is really the retail adoption that we're looking for in crypto products. On the payroll side, so both the super app and the enterprise payroll, ZBCN is required to pay transaction fees for running payroll streams. So as our payroll volume continues to grow, more and more Zebec token there will
Okay.
also be used.
Yeah. I know you guys are rolling out on the super app and the card in terms of rewards programs. First of all, in the super app, what am I going to be able to do inside of that? What are going to be some of the key features?
So think of it as a replacement to a banking app. You'll be able to store your stablecoins in there along with other crypto tokens. You'll be able to swap them. You'll be able to start payroll streams and payments. So let's say you want to pay a friend, you want to pay a contractor, you want to pay, someone in your network. You can do that through that. You can then issue yourself a MasterCard, right? And we offer multiple different MasterCards at Zebec for different use cases.
Is
That
it
was
a true credit card or is it somehow a debit?
so it is
Yep.
more of a debit card style. So
Okay,
there's
a
no
debit.
credit pull in it. The fees are completely zero. So if you put, 10 USDC on it, you get 10 US dollars to spend.
Okay.
And the reason we offer that product is it makes our ecosystem more usable. If people want to get paid in stablecoins, they need to also be able to spend their money in the real world
Yeah.
seamlessly
Yeah.
in stablecoins. So That's what the super app encapsulates. We also have Zebec token staking within the super app. Yesterday, we passed quite an impressive milestone of 15 billion tokens are now staked by the community. So that's 15% of our supply is staked, and that goes up month over month.
Yeah. In staking, what's the yield right now?
The yield is low single digits. So as the staked amount increases, the yield naturally decreases. And that again has been helpful for us to control token inflation.
Does this, okay, so with this kind of super app, especially if you look at real world use, one of the things around credit cards that I think always wins me over is these rewards, whether it's a direct cash back or it's some sort of, loyalty program that I get benefits on. How are you guys going to be able to deal with that? Because I know you guys are mapping to MasterCard right now. What is that going to look like?
So for our first few years, the priority has always been the lowest fees in the market, right? That was our hook to get customers to use our
Yeah.
products. Now that we're in more of a mature business, what we're exploring is introducing a reward program in ZBCN that would be tied to your staked balances of ZBCN as well as your card spend. So if you hold a lot of ZBCN, you stake it in the super app, and then you spend a lot of money on Zebec cards, you will earn a cashback rewarded token.
Oh, okay. All right. In the token.
Correct, in the token.
In the token. All right. That's interesting. Do you have any new features that you're going to be releasing later this year?
So within the super app, there's a number of features that are on the horizon, including direct on and off ramp, as well as an integrated wallet in the super app. So that's going to come through our partnership with Stripe. Stripe, of course, is the development and the owner of Privy Wallet. So Privy Wallet will be built into the super app, meaning that if you're not a crypto native person, you don't have to worry about connecting your Phantom wallet or your MetaMask wallet. Rather, you
Oh,
have a wallet as a service built in with seamless on and off ramps to local bank accounts.
okay. Interesting. So via Stripe.
Via Stripe, exactly.
Okay. Okay. So that's going to roll out in 26?
That is going to be coming this year in the next month or two. So once the first version comes out, version 2 will have that baked into it. And then another very exciting feature that we're looking at adding this year on the roadmap is virtual IBANs. So we'll be able to create virtual bank accounts that sit within the super app, meaning you'll be able to move money seamlessly from your stablecoin balances, your payroll, into an IBAN, and then you can use that to make payments in, let's say, the fiat world.
Okay. So for our audience, explain an iBank. Is this a traditional ABA number, which is the banking association number that correlates wire routing and all that kind of stuff? Would it work the same way?
Exactly. So an IBAN is the international version of what Americans know as a bank account with an ABA and a routing number.
Yep.
They're fully virtual. They support multiple currencies. So you'll have an IBAN for your euros, you'll have an IBAN for your US dollars, for your
Oh, okay.
pounds, and then you'll be able to go between a pound stablecoin and your pound IBAN and your euro stablecoin and your euro IBAN.
Wow.
And the reason that this is so powerful is that it completely replaces a banking app. It completely replaces an app like Revolut, right?
Yep.
And it's built on stablecoins before anything else.
And this is going to be available in the US?
This is going to
Yeah.
be available in the US. Yep.
All right. So okay, so you don't need a master account to do this.
Correct.
How are you getting by not getting a Fed master account?
We have through some of our banking partners, we have coverage in this area, and we're using banks APIs for the IBAN. So we're not going to be hosting the IBANs through Zebec. We're going
Okay.
to be
All
using
right.
our banking partners. Yeah.
Who custodies the assets that are in there?
Who custodies the assets within the super app?
Yeah.
So we have the way it's currently built is it's a non-custodial solution. So the wallet that you use essentially will be your own private key, and you'll have to
Okay. All right.
custody it yourself. But when we bring Privy Wallet later this year, that will be a fully custodied solution.
So that would be a custodied solution. Right now, on the super app, I'd still be able to plug in my Solana wallet or my base
Exactly.
wallet
You
or
have the option to go non-custodial or custodial.
okay. So as far as KYC,
Mhm.
where is the KYC wall going to hit?
Yeah, so it's a great question. We have different levels of KYC based on the product that you're using at Zebec. So if you want to have a card, that's kind of the first level of KYC. And then from there, if you want to set up a payroll, for example, and you're an
Yep.
enterprise, you're going to need to do a basic KYB if you're paying
Yep.
employees or contractors.
Yep.
Now, on the recipient end, you only need to do a KYC when you move money out of the system, right? So you move money to a bank account, for example, or you move it
Out
to
of
a
the system.
yeah,
And I have full capacity. If I'm in the system, I can move to back to my wallet and be
mhm,
on DeFi and, traditional hardware or
exactly.
software
It gives you
wallet.
the ultimate flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Any kind of limits that are within this app? Because this is one of the things that I think people hate about bank accounts. There's always limits everywhere you look.
Well, look, there's absolutely no limits in the amount of stable coins that you can send to the app. That's the beauty of using DeFi rails. However, when you talk about the real world products, like the cards, for example, there are
Mhm.
limits on the cards, but we
Yeah.
offer different cards for different limits. Our carbon card, you can spend 10,000 a day. We have a new card that's coming to market. That's going to be the black card. That's going to have multiples of that. So that's going to really be for the enterprise users and not big spenders.
Right.
And then on the staking side, we've limited staking to 5 million tokens per wallet. And that's really a way to encourage retail users to be able to enjoy the benefits of staking
Mhm.
rather than some of the larger institutional users that maybe hold many more tokens than 5 million.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's gonna be, you may find a lot more institutional getting into this, in the future just because of the staking features within this, and especially as you guys start to roll into full payroll systems, I think that's when you open up the multi-trillions in the market that's really gonna be in capacity there. What would that look like for you guys in a 5-year roadmap?
Well, I mean, in terms of our roadmap, I think our number one priority right now on the payroll side is building out our enterprise solution so that way
Mhm.
we can serve any sort of company. Right, every company has a different use case. They have
Yeah.
treasury needs, for example. So we're bringing a treasury solution to market. What's going to sit within that? It's going to have yield in it, so that way enterprises that hold stable coins will earn a very competitive yield, and they'll have more of an incentive to hold funds on chain rather than in their bank account. We're also going to have direct bank account to stablecoin APIs. So that's going to be offered through Circle as well as through Ripple
Okay.
payments, meaning that if you're an enterprise that doesn't have Fireblock set up or doesn't have a custody solution, doesn't want to hold stablecoins, you can still keep your treasury in the bank account. And at the click of a button when you need to fund payroll, it converts into stablecoin and it
Okay.
loads into the Zebec app, and then the payroll magic begins.
I like it. Okay, one thing that I'm seeing utilized a lot by our own followers, members of, our own Bear Market Edge, because we talk a lot about where and how to get the most yield. One thing that is interesting is some of the hardware wallets now are allowing what they call yield mode. So if you've got assets in your hardware wallet, you can go into yield mode. They flip it out to the market into DeFi, earn the best that they can for you. Are you guys planning any of that you'd be able to do inside the Zebec wallet or even the card itself?
It's something that we are exploring. To be honest with you, we are starting with more vanilla yield options that are extremely low risk because at the end of the day, enterprises don't have the highest risk tolerance when it comes to their
Yeah.
cash balances. So we've gone more for the native yield solutions. For example, we're going live next week with USX, which is a stablecoin on Solana that offers high single digits yield natively, which is very exciting. And then some of the larger ecosystems as well are bringing yield bearing stablecoins into the Zebec app. So
Yeah.
currently, we do not offer the DeFi yields, but it's something that we're going to consider on the horizon for sure.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. Listen, this news popped out today. You got MasterCard going into agents, which are beginning to act. So, right now, they're introducing MasterCard Agent Pay for machines. So, you think about this, you've got maybe a whole new class of payments being developed here. At what time do you think this rolls into the rest of the finance market? Or do you think this is going to take some time to really make its way into the market?
Well, I think we are still very much in the early innings for agent pay. And at Zebec, we really never sought out to build an agentic payroll and payment solution. But in many ways, what we've built in terms of our Rails works incredibly well for AI agents, right?
Yeah.
If you're running payroll on chain, you don't need an HR manager to authorize every single payment, right? It's all programmed and through smart
Right.
contracts. You set limits, you set controls, and then the agents run with it. And payroll really starts to run like clockwork at a
Yeah.
fraction of the cost, right? When you think about what typical companies are paying for payroll, typically they're paying between $20 to $30 per employee per month. So
Hmm.
do the math on how much a Fortune 500 with 100,000 employees is paying. That doesn't even include their HR departments, right? This is just what they're paying the ADPs and the paychecks of the world. You
Yeah.
add on an HR department, right, which includes many people that are running payroll and dealing with tax forms. So our view is that a lot of that can be automated. And similarly with corporate cards, as you mentioned with MasterCards,
Yep.
corporate cards are now going to also need to function within the agentic ecosystem. And by running a corporate card on a stable coin is so much more efficient and easier to track on chain that we believe that's the way the market's going to go when agents take over.
So right now, today, Zebec can manage all of a business's payments or an enterprise's payments to their contractors, and it can do it within, is it within the super app, or do I need
Within the enterprise payroll app. So
okay, the
the
payroll
enterprise
app?
payroll app is it's a business version of the super app.
Okay, gotcha. And right now, that's tracking all the payments to individual contractors, no matter what country, right?
Correct.
Okay. Within that, what kind of reporting features do I have as a business to be able to track all those contractors?
So there's an HR view where you can see all of the contractors, you can see what they're earning, we can see who they report to, so almost like a corporate organizational hierarchy.
Okay.
And then at the end of the month or the end of the quarter, when you need to do your financials as a business, you can produce all of that as an easy download to Excel. You can also send tax forms, 1099 slips to your contractors as well. So it's
Okay.
all built into the app.
Yeah. That's a good feature. I think that is something right now because I know a lot of companies, we do our wealth management and it's mostly business owners that I talk to a lot. And this is the question that's always brought up is payroll, and
Mhm.
contractors. Here in South Florida, where we are, a lot of contractors, gig workers that are really kind of working with a lot of these companies, and they want to go to blockchain, they want to go to stablecoin, but they can't find a platform that gives them any kind of audit trail. And right now, most of them are having to kind of muscle it through where they'll use a typical transaction via the blockchain and then track it in a spreadsheet. It's very clunky for some of these
It's a
businesses.
huge headache. And if you want some of these larger gig economy companies, like the Ubers of the world, the
Yeah.
DoorDash of the world, you need to have that seamless reporting, both for the corporate as well as for the gig worker.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the key is the gig worker is pretty big. You look at the enterprise adoption correlation right now, what the potential here is, because this gets into, what is this going to be worth? You're talking 85 trillion, I think, in ACH connections right now. You look at the potential for this in terms of payments. How does right, at least right now, how does a Web3 protocol directly plug into these traditional banking rails that you're doing today? Because I'm assuming you have to be able to deal with at some point when you scale to ACH, you've got to be able to connect to all these banks in pretty much real time.
Absolutely. It's a great question, and we've been very forward thinking at Zebec about getting ourselves plugged into the ACH and the traditional banking system from the very beginning, because there's really no other way that you're going to work with traditional non-Web3 companies. So we've been involved now with NACHA for the better part of half a year. NACHA, of course, is the organization that governs the US ACH network. We are
Yep.
one of the few, if only, crypto companies that are part of the NACHA alliance, which is very exciting because we've now been at the forefront as they start to think about stablecoin and modernizing the ACH system, right?
Okay.
We also work with some of the largest payment companies in the US that are direct members of NACHA. So companies like NatPay, for example, right, which is our real direct connection
Mhm.
to ACH. And it allows us and our enterprise clients to move funds seamlessly from the stablecoin payroll world into the fiat world.
I like it. You look at the gig economy impact, I think this is going to be pretty big, especially as we start to see more and more self-employed workers. This idea of continuous payment, which is a big deal, streaming payments, think of about it on a cash flow crisis, really for a lot of people. Do you think this is going to get adopted? Streaming payments to contractors anytime soon?
Well, we've seen a lot of early traction. So I would say to your question, absolutely. The demand is there
Yeah.
from the contractors and the employees. When you think about it, we are going through probably one of the worst cost of living crises in generations. Many people are having trouble having ends meet, and the 2 week or 30-day pay cycle really is not serving people today. When you think about it, payroll has not changed materially in the past 70 years. The reason is because of the friction of payments, right? It comes down to the antiquated banking systems, ACH, Swift networks, intermediaries that hold funds for days. And with blockchain technology, we can completely rebuild the system so
Yep.
that the marginal cost of an additional payment is so fractionally small that it doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things as
Hmm.
to how frequently you pay people. And you'll see early employer groups that actually adopt real time payroll, and you'll see them win the HR battle. They will have better employee retention, they'll have higher employee satisfaction, they'll win,
Yep.
in terms of hiring. And from there, in my view, the snowball effect will then continue to grow, and more companies will just have to adopt it to be competitive.
Well, I think you're right. They're going to win when you start to see streaming payments in the gig economy. That is going to migrate a lot in terms of, and I think we're going to see a lot of new businesses in terms of the kinds of businesses that will be serving the gig economy, especially when you start to see everything from autonomy,
Mhm.
most likely that will start to attack places like Uber. I think it's going to open up a lot of these gig workers to have multiple companies that they're dealing with. So anybody that has these kind of features, it's going to be huge, for sure. Hey, let me get your opinion on this. This was, of course, news earlier this week where Stripe, Visa, MasterCard, Coinbase forming a consortium. And this is in reference to a new stablecoin. And you've got Circle and Tether really kind of controlling the market right now. When you look at this move, because this is a pretty significant move. I mean, these three of the biggest finance guys, and then you book the biggest crypto guy in there, I would say, in terms of exchange. What does this landscape look like once we get past the Clarity Act?
My view is that we're going to see more and more corporate and institutional backed stablecoins popping up. It's not
Mm,
going to be one stablecoin that fits all, just like there's not going to be one blockchain that fits all. This is a good thing for the ecosystem. This is a good thing for competition. This is a good thing for consumers. And the beauty of what we have at Zebec is that we'll be able to work with any stablecoin that comes up. So, if market sentiment changes and if volumes move to another stablecoin, our rails will be able to support it. So I think
yeah.
things like this are a great early sign that there's a lot of life and growth in the stablecoin market.
Well, and I think the key here is going to be how those entities launch those kinds of products, and the process that they end up in. Because if you look at some of the big entities that have been very good at that, not in the stablecoin side, but think of it almost like the Starbucks app. If you go in
Mhm.
and look at their reward system, even though they've kind of got a lot of torching because of their devaluation of reward points, that's another story. But the point is they've got all these users. They've got a
Mhm.
ridiculous amount of users that in some cases will bank money in that card to be able to, feed their Starbucks habit. Do you think that is the kind of potential enterprise use case that we may see coming out of retail giants?
Absolutely. I think it makes sense for all of the major retail companies in the US to eventually issue stablecoins, right?
Mm,
They control their own currency. They get the benefit of the float. That yield flows to them. So it'll end up being a profit center on the line items of these companies, just like credit card
yep,
solutions were in the
yep.
past, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of that moving over from credit solutions to stablecoin solutions.
Well, and think about it, if you really let retailers start to maximize that in the DeFi space, and because the retailers themselves have, kind of that trust and control value point that they bring to all of their customers, it does create a new line item, and I think in terms of profitability, or maybe just in differentiation, down into the market, which is gonna be pretty critical, I think, for some of these companies to kinda win over, especially today's modern consumer,
I mean,
for sure.
we're really only 10 months in since the Genius Act passed.
Yeah,
Clarity Act has
exactly.
not passed yet. A lot of these large companies we know are currently looking at it. They're trying to find expertise into how to launch a stablecoin. So in the next few years, we're going to see more and more come to the market. But you just have to keep in mind that they've
Yep.
only started looking at this now in the past couple of months.
I got to talk to you after the show and I kind of get your opinion on something. We of course have a consulting group. We have an investment fund that we're working with right now, both on blockchain and also on kind of next generation companies out there. And retail is one of them. Payments has always been very close to my heart because our connection to the retail space and payments has been for a very long time. We understand it pretty heavily. So I'd love to get your insights on that. Last thing I want to hit you with in terms of kind of the 3-year vision here of where real world assets and PayFi markets start to mature as we head toward the end of the decade. How do you see this all lining up? Where do you see use cases? And also, what do you think ends up winning when it comes to RWA and PayFi?
Good question. I mean, the way we think about it is payroll is just the first and most successful so far use case of real time finance technology. So, what we built at Zebec has been tested now in the payroll market. And from here, we're going to expand into B2B payments, cross border international payments, etc.
Yep.
So the way that we've set things up is that we'll plug directly into all different types of blockchains. We'll be able to integrate with real world assets, meaning that if you're receiving your payroll on stablecoins, you'll also be able to reinvest it in tokenized equities, tokenized bond funds. So that way the entire economy can exist on chain, on our rails, and we'll continue to track our key success metrics over the next couple of years. And really for us, it comes down to the number of people that are using stablecoin payroll, our share of wallet of organizations. So if
Yeah.
stablecoin payroll is offered alongside traditional payroll, what is our percentage in year 1, year 2, year 3, how that grows and how that tracks? Because what we've seen in some of our early pilot programs is that once employees and contractors get used to receiving some payments in stablecoins, and most importantly, trust the system, they're more willing and able to accept more stablecoin payments going forward. So it's really about getting your foot in the door, getting a piece of the share, and growing it with time as we have enormous market tailwinds behind us right now in the stablecoin space.
Yeah, it's going to be huge going into 2030. And I think the adoption curve that we're going to see on the enterprise side is going to surprise a lot of people. Because there's just so much pent up demand
And a
in
lot
terms
of it
of
is not being
reducing fees.
discussed publicly. I mean, we have NDAs with countless companies right now that we cannot talk about, but they will be coming to market publicly with it in the next months and the next few years. So
Interesting. Okay.
a lot
All
of it
right.
is happening behind the scenes right now. Is not Many of these bigger companies are not comfortable to talk about stablecoins publicly at this
Right.
time.
Well, I think yeah, because of just the aura of crypto a lot of times attaches to that. I think
Exactly.
there needs to be a little bit of a branding refresh for stablecoin companies to kind of go. Stripe's doing a pretty good job with it. Mastercard, Visa most likely will kind of help bridge that gap, and most likely if you get someone major like American Express, or you get a major retailer or a major financier, whether it's JP Morgan or someone like that in the banking sector that starts to move in this direction. It's not that that's the best way. It's just that they've had the historical credibility, that a lot of these companies are looking for. So I agree with you.
Exactly. And it takes years to build that. So it's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Simon, it's been good having you on the show. As usual, we love to pick brains of the smartest people in the world on all of this when it comes to blockchain. So thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Paul. It's been a
You
great
bet.
one.
All right, you guys know what to do. Just like and subscribe. Let us know who you think should be on the show next. And we'll see you next time right here on the XRP podcast. Take care.